The Millionaire Fastlane by DeMarco. This video is made for educational purposes only. This book is about breaking free from the slow, frustrating path to wealth and discovering a faster, more fulfilling way to live richly and retire early. It's a guide to unlocking a shortcut to financial freedom through a different mindset and approach to success. So, there's this guy, a teenager, who's just getting into everything. He's not rich, not yet. One day, he sees a Lamborghini, this fancy car that looks like it's from a movie. It's got a cool look, and he's super impressed. He asks the guy driving it how he can afford such a cool car. The guy answers, but not really explaining much. The teenager is left wondering, wanting to know more. He wants to know how to get there, how to make it happen. But the guy doesn't take the time to talk, to share his story. The teenager is left with a question, a dream, and a lot of curiosity. Years later, the teenager is now a grown-up, successful, and he's driving a Lamborghini. He's in the same position he once admired. Now, when people ask him how he got there, he has the answer. He has the story, the knowledge, and the chance to help others. He's not just showing off a car anymore, he's sharing a path, a way to reach that dream. So, years ago, a kid saw a fancy car and wanted to know how someone could afford it. The guy in the car didn't explain much, just said a few things. The kid was left wondering, dreaming, and wanting to know more. That kid grew up, worked hard, and eventually got the car he wanted. Now, when people ask him how he did it, he has the answer. He's not just showing off a car anymore. He's sharing a path, a way to reach that dream. But he also realized there's a big difference between the way most people try to get rich and the way he did. Most people follow a slow, boring path, go to school, get a job, save a little, invest, and wait until they're old to be rich. That's called the slow lane. It's a long, tough road with no real freedom. The fast lane, though, is a shortcut. It's about living richly now, making smart choices, and building wealth fast. The fast lane isn't about just working hard or doing random things. It's about knowing what you're doing, making decisions that lead to wealth, and not letting old rules stop you. It's about freedom, dreams, and living the life you want, not waiting for it. So, there's this guy named Big Daddy who, and he's 22, lives in a huge house on the beach and drives fancy cars. When people ask him how he got so rich, he says he just worked at a phone company, saved money in his 401k, and invested in mutual funds. That sounds crazy, right? No one really thinks that's how you get rich young. You know who actually gets rich young? Athletes, actors, rappers, and other famous people. The rest of us are stuck with the get-rich-slow plan. That plan says go to school, get a job, save, invest, and wait until you're 65 to be rich. But that's not working. No one really gets rich that way. It takes too long, and you miss out on living the life you want. The real problem is thinking old age is needed to be rich. That's not true. You can be rich and young, have freedom, and live the life you dream of. The key is to not follow the slow path and instead find your own way to wealth. So, there was this kid named MJ, and he was just like you or me, average, lazy, and stuck in a rut. He didn't have any special skills or talent, and he didn't think he could ever be rich. He grew up in Chicago, eating ice cream and watching cartoons, living with his mom and his siblings. He didn't care about sports or girls, just about cars. One day, he saw a Lamborghini Countach parked outside an ice cream shop. It was the car he'd always dreamed of, but he didn't think he'd ever own it. He thought only rich people or famous athletes could afford it. But then he saw the guy who owned it, just a young guy in jeans and a flannel shirt. MJ asked him what he did for a living, and the guy said he was an inventor. That changed everything. MJ realized you didn't need fame or talent to be rich. He started looking for people like that, people who were rich without being famous. He tried lots of things, failed a bunch, and ended up in some weird jobs. He got depressed, broke, and even lost his girlfriend. But he kept trying, because he believed there was a way to get rich young. He was determined to find the fast lane, even if it meant starting over. So, MJ was stuck in a bad place, working long hours in a limo, freezing in a Chicago blizzard, and feeling like his life was going nowhere. He was tired, broke, and lost. One night, he got stuck in the snow, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. This wasn't the life he wanted. He made a decision. He was going to change everything. He packed up, left Chicago, and moved to Phoenix with just $900 and a bunch of old stuff. He didn't have a job, no friends, and no safety net, but he had a dream. He started building websites, learning everything he could, and slowly, things started to change. He got his first real job, made money, and felt like he was on the right track. But he realized something: his income was tied to his time. He wanted more freedom. So he came up with a new idea: selling leads instead of ads. It wasn't easy at first, but over time, his business grew, and he started making more and more money. He even got offers to sell his company, but he made bad choices and lost a lot. Eventually, he bought it back and started building something even better. He created a system that worked on its own, like a money tree that grew and gave him freedom. He didn't have to work all the time, and he could live however he wanted. He was rich, but not in the way he used to think. He had freedom, and that made him happy. So here's the story. A guy who used to be broke and lost made a big change. He left his old life and started over with just a little money and a lot of dreams. He worked hard, learned new things, and slowly built a business. He made smart choices, and over time, his business grew. He even sold it once, but then bought it back and made something even better. His business started making money on its own, like a money tree that just keeps growing. He didn't have to work all the time, and he could live the life he wanted. Then, one day, he made a big decision. He sold his business again, this time for a lot of money. It happened really fast, just a few checks and he was rich. He bought a car he always wanted and started working on his dreams, like writing a book. He realized that wealth doesn't have to take years. It can happen quickly if you're on the right path. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. Emotion, determined and wise. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. Emotion, determined and wise. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. This guy, who had already made it big by selling his business, started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. There's this guy who had already made it big by selling his business. He started thinking about how he got there. He realized that just being rich wasn't enough. He wanted to understand the whole journey, not just the end. He started reading and thinking about how people build wealth. He saw that most people focus only on the big moments, like winning the lottery or getting a huge paycheck, but they ignore the long, hard work that leads to those moments. He thought about his own road trip to wealth. He didn't just luck into success. He had to make smart choices, work hard, and keep going even when things got tough. He saw that the real key wasn't just the destination, but the whole journey, every step, every decision, every challenge. He wanted to help others see that too. He knew that if people only focus on the easy way, they'll never get to where they want to be. So he started sharing his story, showing that wealth is about the process, not just the event. He wanted to make sure others didn't get stuck on the side of the road like he once did. So here's what happened next. There's this friend of mine who got mad because I said no to going out on a Saturday night. Are you crazy? It's Saturday night, he yelled. I told him something a slow laner doesn't get. For me, every day is like Saturday because I haven't sold off Monday through Friday. The way to get rich is through three things: family, fitness, and freedom. Freedom is the real key to wealth, and that's why people love Friday evenings. At a bar, my friend and I were talking, and she didn't get why Friday was so special. I asked her, and she said, People get paid on Friday. I explained that Friday is when people get their freedom for the weekend, like getting paid in Saturday and Sunday. That's why people say, "Thank God it's Friday." But I told her that giving 5 days of work for 2 days of freedom is a bad deal, like getting two back for every $5 you put in. That's a negative 60% return. Most people don't realize they're doing this with their time. Kids grow on weekdays, not weekends, and if you're stuck in the slow lane, you're losing out on time with your family and your dreams. Some people live like that for years and end up feeling trapped and unhappy. It's not a good life. The slow lane leads to mediocrity, not wealth. I remember when I was in college, I thought getting a good job was the way to go. But then I went to a job interview for a big insurance company in Chicago. They told us what to expect: a desk, a phone, and a phone book. We'd spend 10 hours a day cold calling old people. I was shocked. I had spent 5 years in school for this. I could have done this in middle school. No thanks. I didn't want to work for someone else, not even for a nice salary or health insurance. I wanted to work for myself. Jobs are bad because they take your time and your freedom. You trade your life for money. And the numbers don't lie. As this table shows, it takes years, sometimes decades, to save up to $1 million. That's not fast. If you want to get rich, you need to stop relying on a job. You need to create your own path. Jobs limit your experience, take away your control, and make you pay yourself last. They're not the way to freedom. If you're stuck in the slow lane, you're not going to get rich. You're just going to be stuck. You're not rich because you're stuck in the slow lane. The way most people try to get rich, getting a good job, saving money, investing in the stock market, and waiting for time to do the work, is a slow, frustrating path. It's based on something called uncontrollable limited leverage, or ULL. That means you don't have control over your income or your investments, and you can't really leverage time or money to make you rich fast. In the slow lane, your money comes from a job, and your wealth grows through investments like mutual funds or 401ks. But here's the problem. Your job pays you based on how much time you work, and time is limited. You can't work 400 hours a day or 10,000 years of your life. And your investments rely on compound interest, which needs a lot of time and a steady return. But the market doesn't always go up, and you can't control how much money you make from it. As this table shows, even a $10,000 investment can grow to millions over 40 years, but only if the market does well, and that's not guaranteed. Plus, by the time you're rich, you're probably too old to enjoy it. That's why so few people actually get rich this way. So there's this guy, a regular slow lane guy, who opened an IRA years ago. He never touched it, just let it sit there, riding the ups and downs of the market. Today, that account is only worth $698. That's not even enough to buy a decent meal, especially with inflation. In real money, it's like $500. And the worst part? He says his spare change bucket on the kitchen table would have done better. If he had invested $1 million, he'd have lost more than $400,000. That's crazy. The slow lane's supposed to be the way to get rich, but it's just a slow, risky, and unreliable path. He even points out a common example. If you had $1,000 in 1940 and let it grow, it would be worth millions today. But here's the catch. By the time you're rich, you're probably too old to enjoy it. And if the market crashes, like in 2008, you could lose everything. That's not a plan, that's just hoping. So there's this idea that if you want to get rich, you just need to study hard and get a good education. That's what a lot of people think. They believe that if you go to school, get a degree, maybe even an MBA, you'll earn more money and eventually become rich. But the book says that's not really how it works. It's not just about getting smarter, it's about doing things that actually create wealth. Take Steve, for example. He spends $44,000 and 800 hours getting an MBA, hoping it'll make him more valuable. But in the end, he's still trading his time for money, just at a higher rate. Same with my friend who spent 5 Saturdays and $2,700 on a project management certification. She wanted to make more money, but she still ended up working a job she didn't love. The book argues that education isn't always the best path to wealth. Some of the richest people never finished school. They built businesses, made smart decisions, and took risks. Education can be useful, but it's not a guarantee of success. In fact, it can sometimes trap you in debt and a life you don't want. So here's the thing. A lot of people who tell you how to get rich don't actually follow their own advice. They're like the guy who teaches you how to eat healthy but is already overweight. You see him in class, sweating and struggling to fit in the chair, and you're like, wait, how can he teach this if he's not living it? That's the paradox of practice. These so-called gurus preach one way to get rich but use another. They're not real examples of what they're teaching. Take Suze, for example. She tells people to invest in mutual funds and 401ks, but she's actually rich from bonds and not the stock market. She's not following her own advice. Same with David and Robert. They sell books and seminars, but their wealth comes from selling, not from the advice they give. They're rich because they're using the fast lane, not the slow lane. These gurus make money by convincing people their plan works, even when it doesn't. They write new books and tell people to rebuild or start over because their old plan failed. But they never had to rebuild. They just kept selling the same idea. So here's the thing, a lot of people who tell you how to get rich don't actually follow their own advice. They're like the guy who teaches you how to eat healthy but is already overweight. You see him in class, sweating and struggling to fit in the chair, and you're like, wait, how can he teach this if he's not living it? That's the paradox of practice. These so-called gurus preach one way to get rich but use another. They're not real examples of what they're teaching. Take Suze, for example. She tells people to invest in mutual funds and 401ks, but she's actually rich from bonds and not the stock market. She's not following her own advice. Same with David and Robert. They sell books and seminars, but their wealth comes from selling, not from the advice they give. They're rich because they're using the fast lane, not the slow lane. These gurus make money by convincing people their plan works, even when it doesn't. They write new books and tell people to rebuild or start over because their old plan failed. But they never had to rebuild. They just kept selling the same idea. Now, the slow lane is like a long, hard journey through the desert, like the story of Moses in the Bible. Moses leads his people out of Egypt, but after 40 years, he dies before reaching the promised land. That's what the slow lane is like. You spend decades working, saving, and hoping for a better future, but there are no guarantees. You might lose your job, get sick, or face other problems. The slow lane depends on things that can't be controlled, like the economy or your health. It's full of risks and takes a lot of time. The slow lane is also full of dangers. You hope your job will always be there, your home will increase in value, and your investments will grow. But these things don't always happen. The economy can crash, your health can fail, and your company might fail. The slow lane is risky because it's built on hope, not real control. So, the book talks about how people think being a millionaire means living a rich, fancy life. But that's not true. Real millionaires who are rich don't act like they're rich. They live simple lives, save a lot, and work hard. They don't spend money on fancy cars or big houses. They're not rich in the way people think they are. Then there's this story about a girl named Callie. She won a big lottery prize, $3 million. But she spent it all in just a few years. She bought expensive clothes, cars, and things like breast implants. She thought she was rich because she had $1 million, but she didn't realize that her lifestyle needed way more money than that. She spent like she was rich, and soon she had nothing left. The book explains that the word millionaire is often used to mean rich, but in reality, it just means someone with $1 million. That's not really rich. To live like a real millionaire, you need way more money. And if you don't manage your money well, you'll end up broke, like Callie did. So, the book talks about how people think being a millionaire means living a rich, fancy life. But that's not true. Real millionaires who are rich don't act like they're rich. They live simple lives, save a lot, and work hard. They don't spend money on fancy cars or big houses. They're not rich in the way people think they are. Then there's this story about a girl named Callie. She won a big lottery prize, $3 million. But she spent it all in just a few years. She bought expensive clothes, cars, and things like breast implants. She thought she was rich because she had $1 million, but she didn't realize that her lifestyle needed way more money than that. She spent like she was rich, and soon she had nothing left. The book explains that the word millionaire is often used to mean rich, but in reality, it just means someone with $1 million. That's not really rich. To live like a real millionaire, you need way more money. And if you don't manage your money well, you'll end up broke, like Callie did. Now, the book talks about a different way to get rich, called the fastlane. It's not about spending money or waiting for luck. It's about building something, working hard, and growing fast. There's a story about a man who started a company and sold it for $32 million. He worked 12 to 16 hours a day for 4 years, almost always 6 days a week. He saved every penny, and he made smart choices. He didn't spend on fancy things, but he made money fast. Now he travels, learns new languages, plays piano, and spends time with his family. He's rich in ways that matter: freedom, time, and joy. Callie spent her $1 million fast on fancy clothes, cars, and even breast implants. She thought she was rich, but her money ran out quickly. The book says being a millionaire just means having $1 million, not being rich. To really be rich, you need way more money. And if you don't manage your money, you'll end up broke, like Callie did. Then the book talks about a different way to get rich, called the fastlane. It's not about spending or waiting for luck. It's about building something, working hard, and growing fast. There's a story about a man who started a company and sold it for $32 million. He worked 12 to 16 hours a day for 4 years, saved every penny, and made smart choices. Now he travels, learns languages, plays piano, and spends time with his family. He's rich in ways that matter: freedom, time, and joy. Now, the book tells a story about 2 brothers, Azur and Chuma. Azur builds a pyramid by hand, lifting heavy stones all day. He works hard, but it takes forever. Chuma, on the other hand, builds a machine to move the stones. He doesn't lift them himself, he just operates the machine. Chuma finishes his pyramid in just a few years, while Azur spends his whole life lifting stones. Azur never realizes that he should have built a system to help him. He keeps lifting stones, getting stronger, and never finishes. He dies before he can enjoy his reward. Chuma, on the other hand, gets to live a rich, free life and even becomes a famous inventor. You've heard about the fast lane, the way to get rich by building something, not waiting or spending. Now the book talks about switching teams. Most people are on Team Consumer. They buy things, want things, need things. They're stuck in a cycle where they work for money to buy more stuff. But the rich are on Team Producer. They make things, create value, and build businesses. Switching teams means changing how you think. Instead of buying, sell. Instead of taking a job, start a business. The book shows how a simple idea, like selling a book, can create wealth that keeps growing long after you've done the work. It's not about time anymore, it's about systems that make money for you. So here's the thing, when people see you driving a fancy car, they ask, "What do you do?" But really, they're asking, "How did you get rich?" They guess you're a star, or you won the lottery, or you were born into money. But I didn't win, I didn't act, and I wasn't born into it. I just built something. The rich don't get rich by working more hours. They get rich by selling more stuff. They control their money through a simple equation: wealth equals net profit plus asset value. Net profit is how much you make from selling things, and asset value is how much your business is worth. I ran a website where people came to get leads. Every visitor was a chance to make money. If I could sell to more people, or make more money per sale, my business grew. And the more my business grew, the more it was worth. That's how I got rich, not by working harder, but by making my business work better. The key is control. You can change your numbers, your traffic, your prices. You can make your business grow fast. The people on the slow lane are stuck with a limit of 24 hours a day. But on the fast lane, your limit is the size of your market. That's how you build wealth, by making your business grow and sell for more. So, here's the thing, when you're trying to get rich fast, you don't just chase money. You chase value. And value grows when you make more profit and make your business better. That's how I got rich. Not by working harder, but by making my business work better. I bought a company for $250,000 and then worked to grow it. I made more customers, cut costs, made things run smoother, and made more money. All that helped my business grow, and that made it worth way more. Then I sold it for millions. I controlled my money, not the other way around. Some people think you have to wait years for money to grow. But the fast lane is different. You build something valuable, sell it when it's worth a lot, and take the money. That's how you make real wealth. But there's risk too. Like John, who built a website that went viral. He got a huge offer, but he waited and lost it all. He should have taken the money when he had it. So, here's the thing, when you're trying to get rich fast, you don't just chase money. You chase value. And value grows when you make more profit and make your business better. That's how I got rich. Not by working harder, but by making my business work better. I bought a company for $250,000 and then worked to grow it. I made more customers, cut costs, made things run smoother, and made more money. All that helped my business grow, and that made it worth way more. Then I sold it for millions. I controlled my money, not the other way around. Some people think you have to wait years for money to grow. But the fast lane is different. You build something valuable, sell it when it's worth a lot, and take the money. That's how you make real wealth. But there's risk too. Like John, who built a website that went viral. He got a huge offer, but he waited and lost it all. He should have taken the money when he had it. Time is the coin of your life. It is the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent. Be careful, lest you let other people spend it for you. I had a really bad month in my late 20s. A bad relationship, health issues, and my business suffered. But I had to cash in my fastlane ticket, and it paid off. My income actually grew even though I wasn't working. I was divorced from time. I stopped trading my time for money and started trading it into a business system that let me escape the slow lane and operate on the fast lane. Time was working for me, not against me. My business system earned money on its own, no matter what I was doing. It didn't care if I was watching TV or on vacation. Money trees are business systems that work on their own. They need some care but can make money without you working. I lost money gambling, but my money tree made money while I was doing that. A money tree is a fastlane business that can give you passive income before you retire. It's like taking a vacation without the trip. Not all businesses are money trees. Some people start businesses thinking they'll be their own boss, but they end up working just as hard as before. Jillian quit her job to start a deli, but she ended up working long hours and not making much profit. She got stuck in her business and couldn't afford to take a break. She had to sell and go back to a 9-to-5 job. There are 5 types of money trees: rental systems, computer software. So, I started thinking about how to build a business that works on its own.
I read about different kinds of money trees, businesses that make money without me working.
One of them is called a distribution system. That's when you use a big network to sell your product to lots of people. Like if you make a gadget and sell it on TV or online, you're using a distribution system. It's like having a giant team that helps you reach millions of customers. You can also use a distribution system by making a product and selling it through stores or online marketplaces. But it's not just about the product, it's about how well you can get it into the hands of people. If you don't use the right system, even the best product might sit on a shelf and never be sold. Distribution systems are powerful, but they need the right setup. You can build your own or use existing ones, like Amazon or the App Store. The key is to make sure your product is moving through the system and reaching people. That's how you create real, lasting wealth. So, I started thinking about how to build a business that works on its own. I read about different kinds of money trees, businesses that make money without me working. One of them is called a distribution system. That's when you use a big network to sell your product to lots of people. Like if you make a gadget and sell it on TV or online, you're using a distribution system. It's like having a giant team that helps you reach millions of customers. You can also use a distribution system by making a product and selling it through stores or online marketplaces. But it's not just about the product, it's about how well you can get it into the hands of people. If you don't use the right system, even the best product might sit on a shelf and never be sold. Distribution systems are powerful, but they need the right setup. You can build your own or use existing ones, like Amazon or the App Store. The key is to make sure your product is moving through the system and reaching people. That's how you create real, lasting wealth. Now, I met a guy named Gary who was rich and didn't have to work. He'd hire my limo every day, not just weekends. He said he never had to work again because he was a lender. He made money by letting other people use his money. He told me about bonds and investments that gave him passive income. He lived large because he didn't need to work. Money is the best tool for building wealth. If you have a lot of it, you can become a lender, owner, or producer. You don't have to work hard anymore. You can let your money work for you. The more money you have, the more passive income you get. As this table shows, even a small amount of money can grow a lot over time. But the rich don't rely on the stock market or waiting for money to grow slowly. They use their money to create income and stay free. They focus on making money fight for them instead of them fighting for money. So, here's the deal. There's this idea called the law of attraction, which says if you think about something enough, it'll come true. A lot of people believe that. But the author says it's not really a law, it's more like a theory. He's not knocking the idea completely, but he's saying it doesn't always work. He even tried it himself. He wished for his book to be published, visualized it, even photoshopped a picture of it on a shelf. But nothing happened. He had to actually sit down and write it. That's when the magic happened. The real law, he says, is the law of affection. That's not a typo. It's about making an impact, either on a huge number of people, scale, or a few with big impact, magnitude. The more people you affect, the richer you become. It's all about math. If you sell a lot of something, even if it's not super expensive, you can make a lot of money. Or if you make something really valuable, even if you don't sell a lot, you can still get rich. So, the author is saying, don't just think about getting rich, do something that affects millions. That's how you get there. So here's the thing. The author talks about how you can't really pay yourself first if you're working a regular job. Because the government takes its share first, and you're left with not much. That's why he says you need to own yourself. To do that, you have to start a business as a corporation, not as a sole proprietor. That way, you're in control and you can pay yourself first, not last. He explains that different business structures like C Corps, S Corps, and LLCs each have their own pros and cons. But they all help protect your personal assets and give you more control over your money. The key is to choose the right structure based on your goals, like whether you want to grow fast, take on investors, or protect yourself from lawsuits. He also shares that he used both an S Corp and an LLC for his businesses. And he reminds us that this advice isn't a substitute for professional help, so you should talk to someone who knows what they're doing. So here's the thing. The author talks about how your life is shaped by the choices you make every day, both the big ones and the small. If you can control what you choose, you can control your life. You can find freedom by being in charge of yourself. He uses a quote from Robert F. Bennett to explain that poor choices are the main reason people end up in poverty. It's not just about money or luck, it's about the choices you make. He shares a personal story about how his own health suffered as his income grew. He didn't take the easy way out with medicine because he wanted to fix the real problem, not just hide the symptoms. He uses a car example to explain, if your gas tank leaks, you don't just keep filling it up, you fix the hole. The same goes for life. If you're not where you want to be, it's because of the choices you've made. He talks about how success isn't just one decision, it's a chain of choices that build your lifestyle. If you want to be rich, you have to make the right choices every day. You're the driver of your life, and your choices are the steering wheel. And if you make bad choices, like driving drunk or cheating, you can ruin everything. So here's the thing. The author uses a golf ball and club to show how small choices can change everything. If the club hits the ball straight, it goes toward the hole. But if the club is even a little off, the ball goes far off course. At first, the mistake seems tiny, but over time, the gap gets bigger and bigger. That's called impact differential. One bad choice today can lead to big problems later. The author gives examples from his own life. When he moved to Phoenix, that choice changed his whole future. He also talks about a dead-end job that led to a better business idea. He even mentions a movie called The Butterfly Effect that shows how choices can change lives in big ways. The author says that when you're young, your choices have the most power. Like an asteroid heading toward Earth, a small change in direction when you're young can save everything. But as you get older, your choices don't have as much power. The author uses a tree metaphor to explain this. The trunk of the tree is made by early choices, and the branches are the results of later decisions. He gives examples of David and Alyssa, whose small choices led to big consequences. The author says that every choice you make, big or small, shapes your future. The key is to make choices that lead to happiness and success. Emotion, thoughtful and determined. So here's a story about a teen who stood next to a Lamborghini and said he would never own one. He didn't see beyond his own windshield. His choice of perception was poor, and it kept him from reaching his dreams. He believed he was too poor, and that belief kept him stuck. But the author had a different choice of perception. He saw the car and thought, one day, I'm gonna own one of those. His belief led to action. He worked hard, made smart choices, and eventually got the car he wanted. The author also talks about how your mindset shapes your life. Words you use in your head matter. If you say, "I can't" or "I never will," you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you say, "I will" or "I can," you're setting yourself up for success. Your language is like a windshield, clear or clouded. The key is to wipe your windshield clean and see the world clearly. He shares a story about a man at a party who thought $10,000 a month was a lot of money. But the author had made that amount in just 2 days. His perception was different. This shows how changing your mindset can change your future. The author believes in fast wealth, not slow savings. He found people who built their wealth quickly, not through mutual funds, but through smart choices and action. He also talks about 2 tools to help make better choices. One is WCCA, which helps you think about the worst-case consequences of your choices. The other is WADM, which helps you compare big decisions by weighing factors. These tools help you make choices that lead to success. So, the author talks about how making big decisions can be tricky, and that's why he uses tools like WADM. He gives an example about a time when he was deciding whether to invest in a Las Vegas restaurant. He did a WADM analysis and realized it wasn't the right move. He turned it down, and later found out the investment failed, saving him from losing a lot of money. That shows how WADM helps you make better choices by weighing the pros and cons clearly. He also talks about how your past doesn't have to control your future. The universe doesn't remember your mistakes or failures. You can choose to see your past as a lesson or a burden. If you let your past define you, you'll never grow. But if you learn from it, you can move forward. So, the author talks about how society pushes people to follow the normal, safe path, like getting a regular job, buying a house, and living a predictable life. But if you want to be rich, you need to break free from that. He uses the Wright brothers as an example. They were told flying was impossible, but they believed it could be done. That's what it means to go fastlane. You have to ignore the noise and push through the doubts. The author also shares his own story. After college, he didn't take a normal job. His family and friends didn't get it. They said he was wasting his education. But he kept going, even though it was hard. He had to fight against people who didn't believe in his dream. That's what it means to turn your back on the headwinds. He also talks about how your environment matters. For him, living in Chicago was a headwind. He needed sun and freedom, so he moved. That's how he found his path to success. So, the key is to recognize the people and situations that hold you back and choose to move forward. Surround yourself with people who believe in your dream. Don't let the world's expectations stop you. So, the author talks about how time is the most important thing you have. Time isn't something you can just get more of. Once it's gone forever. He uses the example of people waiting in line for free chicken. Why would anyone spend 3 hours waiting for a $6 bucket of chicken? Because they think their time is free. But the author says that's a big mistake. Time is the real fuel for life, not money. Money can be made, but time can't. If you waste time on things that don't matter, you're wasting your life. He also talks about how people waste time on things like TV, video games, or endless scrolling. That's not real life. Real life is about doing things that matter. The author says that if you want to be rich, you need to value your time like it's your most valuable asset. Don't waste it on things that don't bring you closer to your goals. He explains that there are 2 types of time: free time and indentured time. Free time is when you're not working, like sleeping or relaxing. Indentured time is when you're working to earn money. The more indentured time you have, the less free time you have. That's why it's important to avoid things that make you work more than you need to. He also talks about parasitic debt, like loans, credit cards, and things you buy on credit. That kind of debt takes away your free time and makes you work more. The author says that if you want to be rich, you need to protect your free time and avoid things that take it away. So here's the thing, everyone has the same amount of time. 24 hours a day, no more, no less. Rich people and poor people both wake up at the same time, and they both go to bed at the same time. But somehow, rich people end up with more money, and poor people end up with less. Why? Because they value their time differently. Some people waste their time on things that don't matter, like waiting in line for a sale, or driving for hours to save a little money. They think they're being smart, but they're actually wasting their most valuable resource. Rich people, on the other hand, know that time is their most important asset. They don't waste it on things that don't bring them closer to their goals. If you want to be rich, you have to start thinking like someone who's already rich. Time is king. So here's the thing, everyone has the same amount of time. 24 hours a day, no more, no less. Rich people and poor people both wake up at the same time, and they both go to bed at the same time. But somehow, rich people end up with more money, and poor people end up with less. Why? Because they value their time differently. Some people waste their time on things that don't matter, like waiting in line for a sale or driving for hours to save a little money. They think they're being smart, but they're actually wasting their most valuable resource. Rich people, on the other hand, know that time is their most important asset. They don't waste it on things that don't bring them closer to their goals. If you want to be rich, you have to start thinking like someone who's already rich. Time is king. Now, let's talk about education. It's like changing the oil in your car. You have to do it every 3,000 miles. If you don't, your car breaks down. Education is your oil. It keeps you running smoothly. But it has to be the right kind of oil, and you have to keep changing it. Take Jim Gallagher. He graduated 11 years ago and is unemployed. He used to be a stockbroker, but now his old education is useless. The world has changed, and he hasn't. He's stuck with the same old skills, like stale oil. His road to wealth has stalled. Education isn't just about school. It's about learning new things, growing, and keeping up with the world. You don't stop learning when you graduate. You start. The rich keep learning, and that's how they stay ahead. You can learn anywhere: books, libraries, the internet, even while you wait in line or use the toilet. The key is to never stop learning. If you do, you'll fall behind. So here's the thing. I've been on the fast lane for a while now, and I've learned a lot. I started learning how to build websites while I was writing this book. I'm even watching a football game right now, like a normal person. But I'm not wasting time on things that don't help me move forward. Time is my most important asset, and I use it wisely. You know how you waste time on small things? Like scrolling through social media or watching TV. That time could be used to learn something useful. Think of it like an oil change for your brain. You need to keep learning, even after you graduate school. If you stop, you fall behind. Take Jim Gallagher. He used to be a stockbroker, but now he's stuck because he didn't keep learning. He's like a car with old oil, it just doesn't run well anymore. Education isn't just about school. It's about growing, improving, and staying ahead. You can learn anywhere: books, the internet, even while you're waiting in line. The key is to never stop. The more you learn, the faster you move toward your goals. So, here's the thing. The fast lane isn't for people who just want to be interested in getting rich. It's for people who are committed. You know, the kind of people who don't just read a book but actually do what they learn in it 50 times. That's what separates the winners from the rest. Commitment means working on your business every day, not just when it's convenient. It means living in a tiny apartment while your friends are buying houses or riding a bike instead of driving a fancy car. It means pushing through failures and not giving up. Mark Zuckerberg and Thomas Edison didn't just have an interest in their goals, they were fully committed. They kept going even when things got tough. That's what it takes to build something real. Most people don't want to put in the hard work. They'd rather sit back and wait for things to happen. But the fast lane isn't about waiting. It's about getting your foot off the brakes and getting your hands dirty. You have to take risks, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Fear of failure is natural, but you can't grow without it. Every failure is a lesson. Every risk is a step closer to success. So, are you willing to do what it takes? Because if you're not, you're going to be left behind. People keep saying things like, "I'm waiting for the new year," or "I'm waiting for my wife to get a job." They're always waiting for something, some event, some condition, some perfect moment. But the truth is, these wait for this or wait for that moments never really happen. They just keep moving on, and the person who was waiting is still stuck in the same place. Opportunity doesn't care about your timing. It doesn't care if you're ready or not. It comes when it wants, and it goes when it wants. You have to be ready to grab it when it shows up. That's what happened with the Fastlane Forum. I didn't wait for the perfect time to start it. I saw an opportunity and took it even though I wasn't prepared. That's how some of the biggest names in business started. They didn't wait for the right moment. They acted when they saw a chance. And that's how you get rich. So, here's the thing. When you're trying to get rich, you need to pick the right path. If you're stuck in a job, like a doctor or a lawyer, that's not going to take you to wealth. Jobs have limits, and they don't let you grow fast. But if you start a business, like selling stuff online or investing in real estate, that's a different story. That's the fast lane. But even some businesses aren't the right road. You have to make sure your business touches a lot of people or has a big impact. That's called the law of affection. If your business doesn't hit that, it's not going to make you rich. So, Morgan talks about 5 rules called NECST to check if your business is on the right road. If it passes all 5, it can take you to wealth fast. But if it fails, it's not worth your time. So, pick the right path, and you'll be on your way to success. So, here's the thing. When you're trying to get rich, you need to pick the right path. If you're stuck in a job, like a doctor or a lawyer, that's not going to take you to wealth. Jobs have limits, and they don't let you grow fast. But if you start a business, like selling stuff online or investing in real estate, that's a different story. That's the fast lane, but even some businesses aren't the right road. You have to make sure your business touches a lot of people or has a big impact. That's called the law of affection. If your business doesn't hit that, it's not going to make you rich. So, Morgan talks about 5 rules, called NECST, to check if your business is on the right road. If it passes all 5, it can take you to wealth fast. But if it fails, it's not worth your time. So, pick the right path, and you'll be on your way to success. Now, Morgan talks about something really important. He calls it the commandment of need. He says that most new businesses fail because they don't solve real problems. People don't care about your dreams or your reasons for starting a business. They care about what you can do for them. If your business doesn't help them, they won't give you money. So, instead of chasing money, chase needs. Real needs. Problems. Things people want or need. If you start a business just because you love something or want to be rich, it's probably going to fail. That's what happened to Joe. He loved martial arts and opened a studio, but it didn't work because there wasn't a real need for it. People didn't want to pay for it. Morgan says you should ask yourself questions like, is there a need in my neighborhood? Or what can I do better than others? If you focus on solving real problems, you'll be more likely to succeed. Morgan talks about how people often think they should start a business because they love something, but that's not enough. People don't care if you love what you do, they care if you can help them. If your business doesn't solve a real problem, it won't work. He uses the example of Joe, who opened a martial arts studio because he loved it, but no one cared enough to pay. Morgan says you should ask yourself if there's a real need in your area or if you can do something better than others. If you focus on solving real problems, you're more likely to succeed. He also talks about how do what you love isn't the right path for most people. Money doesn't follow love, it leads to love. If you want to make money, you have to solve real needs. He gives examples of people who tried to turn their hobbies into businesses, like knitting or auto audio, but they didn't make money fast because the market was too crowded. Love can get messed up when you do it for money. Passion, not love, is what gets you moving. Passion is about a bigger goal, something that drives you to take action and work hard. Morgan says if you don't have a strong why, you won't have the motivation to succeed. Morgan talks about Leslie, a woman who wanted to help animals but couldn't afford a dog shelter. Instead of giving up, she used her passion to start a fastlane business that had nothing to do with animals. Her love for helping animals gave her the drive to build something that could help her reach her dream. Leslie's story shows how passion can lead to success without needing money first. Morgan shares his own story too. When he saw his first Lamborghini as a teen, he dreamed of owning one. Later, he saw his mom struggle with tough jobs, and that made him want to help her. Both excitement and discontent fueled his passion. Morgan says that passion, not love, is what gets you moving. It's about having a clear why that pushes you to work hard. If you find your passion, it can lead you to your goals. Morgan talks about a time when he was in a big room full of people, all excited about a network marketing company. He wasn't excited. He saw people just following orders without thinking. He asked questions, like how much money people were making. The answers didn't help. He realized most people in the room weren't making much. He saw that the business had no real barriers to entry, which meant too many people were trying to do the same thing. That made the road crowded and hard to move on. Morgan failed in network marketing because of that. He learned that to succeed, you need high entry barriers and the ability to stand out. He calls it the commandment of entry. If it's easy to get into, it's hard to win. Morgan compares it to things like eBay or blogging, where too many people joined and made it hard for anyone to succeed. He says you need to be exceptional to win in those kinds of markets. He also talks about how when everyone is doing something, it's usually a sign that it's not going to last. Morgan learned to stay away from those situations and instead look for opportunities where not everyone is trying to get in. Morgan talks about how important it is to be in control of your business. He says if you're not the one driving, you're just a passenger and someone else is making the big money. He uses the example of his website and an affiliate program. He had an affiliate who made good money, but Morgan was the one making big money because he controlled everything. Morgan warns that if you give up control, you risk losing everything. He also shares a story about his forum and Google ads. When Google decided to stop paying for ads, Morgan lost his income for 8 days. He says this shows how dangerous it is to rely on someone else's system. Morgan encourages people to be drivers, not hitchhikers. He compares being in control to being a shark in the ocean, not a guppy. He says if you're not the one creating your business, you're not really in control. He ends by telling people to invest in their own brand, not someone else's. Morgan talks about how network marketing can be a fast lane, but only if you own the company. He says if you just join a company, you're not really in control. He shares stories of friends who tried network marketing and made money, but they never felt like real entrepreneurs. They were always at the mercy of the company's rules and decisions. Morgan explains that in network marketing, you're not the boss. You're just a worker in someone else's system. He says the people who really make it are the founders, not the people who signed up later. Morgan admits he tried network marketing and even made some money, but he always felt like he wasn't in control. He compares network marketers to soldiers in a fastlaner's army. He encourages people to create their own companies instead of joining others. He says the key is to be the creator, not the follower. You have to build your own brand and control your own money. You can't just ride on someone else's success. You have to be the driver, not the hitchhiker. Morgan talks about how to build real wealth by thinking big. He says that if you want to get rich, you need to create a business that can grow and reach lots of people. He uses a baseball analogy, like hitting home runs instead of just singles. If you're running a small local store, you're stuck on a tiny field. You can't reach millions of customers. But if you build something that can spread everywhere, like a website or a big company, you can hit big. He explains that scale is about being able to sell a lot of things or make a lot of money per sale. If your business can't grow, it won't create real wealth. He gives examples like a sandwich shop that can only sell so many sandwiches a day and a restaurant that serves expensive meals to many people. The key is to build something that can grow and impact millions. Morgan says that to get rich, you have to aim for scale or magnitude. You have to be in a business that can reach a huge audience or make a lot of money per customer. That's how you unlock the law of affection. Emotion, hopeful and determined. Morgan talks about how time is a big deal when you're trying to get rich. He says you don't want to spend all your time working because you only live 100 years or so. The key is to build a business that doesn't need you around all the time. If your business can run by itself, it becomes a money tree. That's called passive income. He uses Ashlyn's story to explain this. Ashlyn loved art and literature, so she opened a coffee shop with local artists and hosted readings. At first, it was exciting. But after 2 years, the excitement faded. She was working all the time, no time for friends, her boyfriend, or even her health. Her business didn't free her, it trapped her. She tried to fix it by hiring a manager, but the costs were too high. She couldn't afford it. Eventually, she closed the shop and went back to being an employee. She didn't fail at business, but she failed the commandment of time. Her business didn't let her live her life. Morgan talks about how the fastest way to get rich is by taking the right roads that let you make money without working forever. He uses a quote from John Wooden to show that helping others is important. Then he shares a story about his own life. In his mid-20s, he worked as a limo driver, but he didn't really want to own a limo company. He saw an opportunity to buy one, but he was torn. He had plans to move to Phoenix, and he didn't like the long hours and early mornings. He made a decision matrix to help him choose. He decided to stay in his current job and move to Phoenix instead. He realized that the limo business wasn't a fastlane business. It didn't let him live his life. He wanted a business that was pure fastlane from the start. He explains that the best fastlane roads are the internet, innovation, and intentional iteration. These roads let you scale fast, automate, and make money without working all the time. The internet, in particular, is the fastest road because it lets you reach millions of people and make money with little effort. Morgan shows examples of different internet businesses, like subscription services and e-commerce. He also talks about how innovation can be a fast lane if you can make and sell something that people want. But he warns that innovation is hard because you need to both create and distribute your product. The key is to find a road that lets you make money without working forever. So, Morgan talks about the third fast lane, called intentional iteration. This one is tricky because it doesn't follow all 5 rules, but it still works. The idea is to repeat a process over and over to grow your business. For example, a real estate investor might buy one house and rent it out, but that's not really scaling. To make it scale, he buys 50 houses. That's how he grows his money. It's not easy, and it takes time. Another example is franchising. If you start a small store, your goal isn't just one store, but hundreds or thousands. You build a system, then copy it everywhere. Even a small deli can become a fast lane if you use intentional iteration. A forum question asked if a candy kiosk is a fast lane. On its own, no. But if you put 200 kiosks in 50 malls, that's a fast lane. It's about scaling up from small wins to big successes. Intentional iteration is how you turn a limited business into something big. Morgan talks about how people often think big, new ideas are the key to success, but that's not always true. He says real opportunities are usually about solving small problems or making things better. For example, someone might complain about a messy, hard-to-find website. That's an opportunity to fix it. Morgan shares a story about him trying to start a limo directory online, only to find a bunch of other companies already doing it. But instead of giving up, he realized he could do it better. He made the service easier to use and more helpful, and eventually, those old companies faded away. He says the same thing happened with Google, Walmart, McDonald's, and even companies like 1-800 GOT Junk. They all started by improving something that already existed. Morgan encourages people to look for the little frustrations in life, because those are the open roads to wealth. He gives examples of phrases like "I hate," "I'm tired of," or "this sucks." These are clues that there's an opportunity waiting to be solved. If you can fix someone else's problem, you'll find your own success. Emotion, hopeful and determined. Morgan talks about the importance of knowing where you want to go before you start your journey. He says that having a clear destination gives you direction and helps you stay focused. He explains that freedom, like being able to travel, work on your own time, or live how you want, is the real goal, not just money. But to get that freedom, you need money. He gives an example of a guy who wants to live a simple life but is sacrificing his family and not making any money. Morgan points out that even simple things like a little house and a horse cost a lot of money. He says that dreams come with a price, and that price is money, responsibility, and hard work. Morgan then gives a step-by-step plan to set your financial goals. He talks about figuring out what lifestyle you want, how much it costs, and setting targets for both a business and a money system. He encourages people to start small, like saving a little bit each day, and to build up over time. He ends by saying that financial knowledge is just as important as knowing how to drive. Without it, you can't build a strong money system. Emotion, hopeful and determined. Morgan talks about the basics of money and how you need to know the rules before you start driving. He says that live below your means is a good rule, but it's not just about spending less than you earn. It's about making sure you're not holding back your ability to grow. He explains that for someone on the fast lane, this rule means you should spend less than you earn, so you can save and invest more. That way, you can build more money and freedom over time. He also talks about how hiring a financial advisor can help, but only if you know enough about money to understand what they're saying. If you don't know the basics, you can't tell good advice from bad. Morgan gives the example of Nicolas Cage, who had a lot of money but still got into trouble because he didn't understand how to manage it. He finishes by saying that financial knowledge is like a safety net. It helps you stay in control and avoid big mistakes. Morgan talks about how people often confuse ideas with success. He says ideas are like a car's speedometer showing 220 miles per hour, but unless you actually drive the car, you're just looking at potential. He uses the example of a Lamborghini that's never been driven to its top speed. The key is not just having a great idea, but making it happen. He compares business to a game of chess, where each part of the business has a role, like the king, queen, and pawns. He explains that ideas are like pawns, and execution is like the king. Without strong execution, even the best ideas don't do much. He also talks about how most people don't follow through with the information they get. They stop at the idea, not the action. Morgan says execution is what separates winners from losers. It's not about the idea, it's about making it real. He gives examples of people who had good ideas but failed because they didn't execute well. The message is clear: ideas are nothing without action. Morgan talks about how having the best idea in the world isn't enough unless you act on it. He uses a quote from Curtis Grant to say people who want milk shouldn't sit and wait for a cow to come to them. He explains that the world reacts to what you do, not what you think. If you put your idea out there, the market will tell you if it works or not. He gives an example of his website redesign. He spent 6 weeks making a new design, was excited, and then launched it. But the world didn't like it. People complained, the bounce rate went up, and the conversion rate dropped. He had to go back to the old design. He learned that the world tells you where to go, and you have to listen. He also says business plans are useless unless they're tied to real action. He gives examples like Facebook and his own website changing direction after launching. He says investors care more about your track record of execution than a business plan. If you've built something real, people will want to see your plan. The key is to act, build something, and let the world tell you what to do next. Morgan talks about how customers tell each other about your business when you give them a great experience. He uses a quote from Jeff Bezos to say that word of mouth is super powerful. He explains that in business, your customer service is like the bishop in a chess game, it's on the front line, helping and supporting your customers. Morgan also shares about his Black Book, which wasn't a list of phone numbers, but a record of all complaints and issues his business faced. He learned that complaints are actually useful. They give free feedback and show you what your customers really need. He explains there are 4 types of complaints: complaints about change, complaints about expectations, complaints about voids, and complaints of fraud. Some complaints are just people resisting change. Others show you're not meeting expectations, and some reveal unmet needs. He also talks about how to deal with fake complaints. They're frustrating, but you just need to respond once and move on. Morgan ends by saying that great customer service that surprises people in a positive way, what he calls sucks, can turn customers into loyal fans who help grow your business for free. Morgan called Liquid Web for help with a technical problem. He expected to wait a day or 2. But Liquid Web responded in 10 minutes and fixed his issue in 20. Their service surprised him and made him really happy. He started telling everyone about them. Now, when people ask him about hosting, he recommends Liquid Web without hesitation. He even pays them in 2 ways: money and by talking about them. People who love your business will help you grow for free. If you have 1 happy customer, you can grow a little. But if you have thousands, you can grow a lot. To grow fast, you need to surprise your customers. Know what they expect and then do the opposite. This makes them loyal and helps your business grow quickly. Great service costs more, but it pays off. Many business owners focus on getting new customers but forget to take care of the ones they already have. That's a big mistake. The best businesses make their customers the top priority. They don't just serve them, they make them happy and loyal. If you want to grow fast, make your customers the boss. Don't be your own boss. Look big but act small. Make your business seem strong but keep your service personal. This helps you surprise customers and win their loyalty. You can even scare away competitors by looking big. If they think you're too strong to beat, they might not even try. So here's the story. Jim and Mike were friends who started a business together. They were excited and thought they were perfect for each other. They split profits 50-50 and worked hard. At first, it went well. Mike brought clients, Jim brought a few too. But after a while, Jim started to slack off. He didn't bring as many clients, and the ones he did bring weren't getting good support. Mike had to pick up the extra work. Jim kept getting his 50% cut every week, even though he wasn't helping. Mike tried to talk to him, but Jim got defensive. Things got worse. Jim's work suffered, and he didn't bring in new clients for months. Mike wanted to end the partnership, but Jim didn't want to lose his money. Eventually, Mike had to take legal action. The partnership ended, and so did their friendship. Partnerships are like marriages. They start with excitement, but over time, you have to rely on trust, shared goals, and good character. If those aren't there, things fall apart. Jim and Mike had different work ethics and goals, so it didn't work. Morgan learned from this. He tried many partnerships, but they all failed because the people didn't match up. He realized that finding the right partner is just as important as finding the right business. You have to ask tough questions. Do you trust each other? Do you have the same goals? Will you work hard? If not, the partnership is doomed. Mike and Jim had a business together. They both worked hard and brought in customers. At first, everything went well. But over time, Jim started to stop working as much. He didn't bring in new clients, and the ones he did bring weren't getting good support. Mike had to take on more work. Jim still got his 50% cut every week, even though he wasn't helping. Mike tried to talk to him, but Jim got angry. Things got worse. Jim's work suffered, and he didn't bring in new clients for months. Mike wanted to end the partnership, but Jim didn't want to lose his money. Eventually, Mike had to take legal action. The partnership ended, and so did their friendship. Partnerships are like marriages. They start with excitement, but over time, you have to rely on trust, shared goals, and good character. If those aren't there, things fall apart. Jim and Mike had different work ethics and goals, so it didn't work. Morgan learned from this. He tried many partnerships, but they all failed because the people didn't match up. He realized that finding the right partner is just as important as finding the right business. You have to ask tough questions. Do you trust each other? Do you have the same goals? Will you work hard? If not, the partnership is doomed. So, Morgan talked about how some businesses are just like a knight in shining armor, ready to save the day. But if your product is just like everyone else's, it's not special. It gets lost in the crowd. He gave examples of businesses that started because someone wanted to be their own boss, not because there was a real need. Like the limo companies, there were way too many, and no one really needed them. People just wanted to own a business. That's a bad idea because it leads to price wars and no one making money. He also talked about how business owners should focus on their own business, instead of always watching what their competitors are doing. If you're always looking at others, you're not thinking about your customers or your product. You should use what you learn from competitors to make your business better, not just copy them. Morgan talked about how people want to feel special, even if they don't realize it. He said that when you're trying to sell something, you need to make people feel like they're getting something unique. That's why marketing is so powerful, it can make even bad products seem good. He used examples like bad ads and poor service that still made people buy because of the way they were sold. He explained that businesses just make money, but brands build loyalty. People like Coke because they feel connected to it, not just because it's cheaper. Morgan said that if your business doesn't have a strong brand, it's just another face in the crowd. He gave the example of a carpet cleaner who didn't stand out. To succeed, he needed to create a USP, something that made him different. He suggested ideas like clear pricing and no hidden fees. He also talked about how to build a brand by being specific, using strong words, and making sure your USP is everywhere people see your business. Morgan stressed that a USP has to be real and deliver what it promises. If it doesn't, people will stop trusting you. Morgan talked about how people love to talk about themselves and how that can help your business. He said if you make your customers feel like they're part of the story, they'll care more. He gave an example of a survey that asks, "Are you speeding the fast lane or stuck in the slow lane?" Find out now. That kind of question makes people want to take part. He said when people share a little bit of themselves, they feel closer to your brand, like their friends. That makes them more likely to buy from you. He also said to be unconventional. If everyone is doing the same thing, you need to stand out. He talked about the Energizer Bunny ad that shocked people with a pink rabbit. That made people remember the brand. He said if you can grab someone's attention, you're halfway there. The other half is making them think, what's in it for me? People don't care about your business, they care about what's good for them. So your marketing needs to focus on the benefits, not just the features. Morgan talked about how important it is to stand out from everyone else. He said if you want people to choose you over your competitors, you need to show them why you're better. He called this your unique selling proposition or USP. That's what makes you different and makes people pay more for what you offer. He said people like to feel special, so your brand has to make them feel like they're getting something extra. He also said that emotions play a big part in why people buy. If you can make them feel excited, happy, or even a little nervous, they're more likely to take action. Morgan warned that if you don't focus on what makes your brand special, you'll just end up in the slow lane, where everyone is the same and no one remembers you. He said the best way to stand out is to be unconventional. That means doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing, or interrupting the usual way things are done. If you can do that, you'll grab people's attention and make them think, what's in it for me? Morgan talked about how important it is to stay focused and not spread yourself too thin. He used a story about his friend Marcus, who tried to do too many things at once. Marcus started new businesses every week, but never really succeeded. Morgan called this Tickle syndrome and said it was a bad habit because it made people waste their time and energy on things that didn't matter. He said when you focus on one thing, you can build something real and strong. But when you chase too many ideas, you end up with nothing. Morgan even shared his own experience, where he started a new business that took away time from his main one. He realized he was cheating on his main business, and in the end, he had to stop the new one. He said the best way to succeed is to be monogamous, to focus on one business and do it really well. Only then can you afford to do more. Morgan wrapped up his story by talking about how to really build wealth. He said the key is to take action and follow a clear plan. He introduced the Fastlane Supercharger, a list of 20 steps to help you get rich fast. He explained each step, like focusing on one business, using time wisely, and building systems that work for you. He also talked about setting goals, finding what people really need, and not letting excuses stop you. Morgan reminded everyone that success isn't about luck, it's about choices and effort. He encouraged people to start now, no matter where they are in life. He said the journey to wealth is a personal road trip, and the most important thing is to keep moving forward. Morgan got a bunch of letters from readers asking questions. One teacher, MJ, wanted to know how to go fastlane. Morgan said he didn't have to quit his job, but he should start a second path. Maybe he could make something schools need, like a book for teachers or a product for classrooms. He reminded MJ that needs are everywhere, even if they're not on his current road. Morgan also said teachers have a lot of free time, especially in the summer. That time could be used to build a new road. Another letter was from someone who's in debt. Morgan told them to look at why they got into debt. He said it's not an accident, it's a series of choices. To get out of debt, they need to make new choices, like paying cash for everything. He also said making more money is the key. If they had a business that made $15,000 a month, their debt would be gone in weeks. Morgan also talked about a couple with different financial goals. He warned that if their roads don't align, their relationship might suffer. He said they need to find common ground, like valuing time or financial freedom. He also answered questions about real estate, affiliate marketing, and college. Morgan said real estate can be fastlane if you work hard and build a lot of properties. Affiliate marketing can work too, but only if you're exceptional and have the right process. He didn't say to skip college, but he reminded people to think about the cost and their goals. Morgan talked about how people can fool themselves into thinking they're on the fast lane when they're not. He warned that if you're not careful, you'll suffer when interest rates go up. He told MJ that a good mentor isn't just someone who guides you, they're a helpful force that pushes you forward. But not all mentors are useful. Some people just want someone to take the risk for them. Morgan said the real value of a mentor is helping you think clearly, not doing the work for you. He also answered MJ's question about being strict about material extravagance but still describing the fast lane with fancy cars and big houses. Morgan explained that it's not about buying things, but about freedom. If you can afford a big car and not feel trapped by it, then it's okay. Morgan also helped a person stuck in a rut, telling them that change starts with belief. If you think you can't move forward, you won't. He encouraged them to look at their past choices and think about how they can help others. He said you can become an expert at anything if you study and work hard, even if it means giving up some fun now. Morgan wrote down 40 rules for living the fast lane life. These rules help people stay focused and not get stuck in the slow lane. He said not to ignore the idea of getting rich quickly, but also not to let others stop you from chasing your dreams. He told people to trust their own thinking, not just what others say. Morgan said it's not about buying fancy things, but about freedom. He also said to always work hard, learn new things, and not let debt control your life. He encouraged people to be producers, not just consumers. Morgan said to focus on making money through income, not just letting money grow on its own. He told people to build their own brand, not just copy others. He reminded them to care about their customers, not just other people. Morgan also said to always be in control of your business and your money. He said to live within your means, but also to grow them. Morgan said the most important thing is to know how to manage money and make smart choices. He ended by telling people to join the Fastlane community and keep learning. So, what are the key lessons from this book? First, the fastest way to get rich isn't by working a regular job and saving up, it's by building something that makes money on its own. That's the fast lane. Most people stick to the slow lane, which is just working for someone else, saving and waiting for retirement. But that rarely leads to real wealth. Another key lesson is that you have to take control of your life. That means making smart choices, working hard, and being willing to leave your comfort zone. You can't wait for luck. You have to create it. And if you're stuck in a bad situation, like MJ was, you have to make a decision to change. You have to be ready to start over, even if it means leaving everything behind. You also need to be patient and persistent. Building wealth isn't about quick wins, it's about creating value over time. And finally, the real key is understanding that the journey matters more than the destination. You don't just want to be rich, you want to build a life that allows you to live the way you want. So take control, build something, and don't wait for the slow path to get you there.